you think burnout is just being tired, needing a vacation, or doing more self care, you're already missing the real issue. Now, if you're a business owner, especially in the behavioral health or mental health space, you know that burnout isn't just a mood, it's a pattern that can be predicted, measured, and even fixable. Now, if you observe this in your clients, you can certainly observe it in yourself, your team, and your practice. But here's what's really frustrating, or can be, is that you went into this field to help people and you help them heal. You're sitting here, yet now, watching a video on burnout. You spent years to go to school to help people through their trauma, through their recovery, and giving them practical steps to help them becoming the best versions of themselves. However, no one taught you how not be burnt out building your own practice and business in that process, because your well-being also matters, especially if you're trying to sustain and build something beyond you. So I worked with many clinicians. We have those come to us and they're behavioral health providers over the past years. And I can tell you about 90% of them have burnout issues. And 90% of them aren't clinical problems. They're actually operational problems that are masquerading themselves as personal failures. So today, we're going to strip away the fluff and share real practical steps to help you know exactly what your burnout is, why it happens to many practice owners, and how you can actually fix it for yourself by fixing your practice operations. And not alone, right? You don't have to do this alone. So let's get into this. All right, so let me tell you about, we'll use Jane just to protect names. So Jane is a provider, came to me, and she was saying she didn't think she was cut out for this. She was burnt out. She was considering going back to joining another group agency and practice and just working in there because it's easier, less stress. And here's what we looked at. She had about 30 clients a week. She was spending so much time on progress notes and also trying to figure out billing and everything else on top of that. It was just piling up, and it's like sweeping crumbs under the rug. All right. And it was just too much at this point. So Sarah thought it was a personal problem. Well, she thought she needed better time management. She thought she needed more skills, more discipline. Maybe she even thought she wasn't cut out to be an entrepreneur in this space. But once we audited her operations, we found a completely different cause. She wasn't burned out because she was lazy, undisciplined, didn't have good time management. She was burned out because her operations and practice just lacked the design to prevent her from burning out. So if you stay to the end of this video, you're going to leave with practical steps that's going to help you and take your practice to the next level by being a better you and a better CEO. Now, when I spoke to her, I said, burnout is not a feeling. It's actually a system. I don't know what's going on. I meant symptom. All right. So burnout isn't a feeling. It's a symptom. I'm going to get fried from this one. Now, the word burnout, I think it has lost its meaning. And even in this field, I hear practice owners use it and describe everything from being stressed about difficult clients or feeling overwhelmed or insurance, paperwork, or just being frustrated with their staff, right? But here's the problem. It's vague language, and vague problems are going to get vague solutions. When you say that I'm burned out, what are you actually describing? Are you talking about compassion fatigue? Are you from working with trauma clients, a lot of baggage there? Or are you talking about decision fatigue from making 47 business decisions before 10 a.m.? Are you talking about chronic stress, unpredictable income? What are we talking about here? Like, it's frustrating, right? You're spending more time on business operations and it doesn't feel like it's working, or you're spending more time on clinical work than business operations. So these are vague words people say. So I feel overwhelmed, exhausted, unmotivated. But what does that actually look like? These are completely different problems that require different solutions. Compassion fatigue requires clinical supervision or professional, like personal development, right? Decision fatigue requires systematized operations. Income stress requires financial planning, reports, a marketing system. Role confusion requires clarity on where and when to spend your time. In this field, especially like behavioral health, like where you're trained to be precise on your assessments. So you don't tell clients that they have mental health issues. You're not going to tell them that. You identify specific symptoms, patterns, triggers, and then you apply that same precision to your business challenges. All right. Don't think of it differently. You can do the same thing with yourself. These are actual skills that will help you. So let's get specific about what burnout actually looks like and some of those patterns that I've seen and noticed. I guarantee you're going to recognize these in yourself. So get some paper, some notes. Let's get into it. So within your practice specifically, burnout shows up in different and specific ways, and they're very observable, right? So we're going to break these down into actual categories, and I want you to mentally check off the ones that apply to you. So don't judge yourself. We're just observing. You're just assessing, all right? So observable patterns. First one, going to be that clinical work patterns. And it might show up like you're dreading sessions. Clients used to enjoy working with you. You find yourself running 5 to 10 minutes late more consistently between your appointments, and you're avoiding difficult treatment planning conversations or going through the motions. Right? You're on autopilot. You're copy pasting your progress notes instead of individualizing them. You're weeks behind documentation. You catch yourself being less empathetic during sessions, or you notice your therapeutic presence isn't as strong as it once was. You're avoiding taking on clients with certain diagnoses, trauma histories, and things that you just used to feel confident treating, you're no longer confident with. All right, so that you just take notes. Now, the next one is going to be business operation patterns. So what's in this specifically is you avoid looking at your practice dashboard, your financial reports, key metrics, bank account statements. You procrastinate on credentialing renewals until the last moment. Insurance follow-up calls pile up for weeks because you keep putting them off, or avoid even checking in with your team on them. You haven't done anything marketing-wise, networking-wise in months, and even though you have openings on your schedule. And you keep saying you'll hire help when things slow down, but things never slow down. And that's piling up. Simple admin task used to take you 30 minutes, now it takes you 2 hours because you just can't focus on that. Does that sound like you? Write it down. Now, this next one here, we got the team and staff pattern, all right? This team and staff patterns shows up like this. You're avoiding difficult conversations with your employees about their performance issues. You micromanage your staff because you don't trust them to do the things that you get done, that will get done correctly. You cancel or postpone your meetings because you're too busy. You have high staff turnover. You keep telling yourself it's hard to find good people, and you find yourself doing tasks that your staff should be doing because it's easier than explaining or training them to do so. As a team and staff, you got your scheduling and time management patterns. So this is you. Please continue to note this down. You work through lunch most days, eating at your desk between clients. You stay late to finish documents and notes instead of going home to your family. You check work emails and messages during evenings and weekends. Your personal appointments, doctors, dentists, haircuts, nails done, gets canceled because work conflicts. You feel guilty when you're not working, even during your scheduled time off. Then you have your financial and business development patterns. All right. You avoid reviewing profit and loss statements or cash flow projections. You don't have clear understanding of your true hourly rate or business expenses. You keep your fees lower than they should be because it's uncomfortable to have that money conversation. You don't have systems for tracking your referral sources or client acquisition costs. You make business decisions based on immediate cash needs rather than long-term strategy. Now you have your personal and health patterns. You're experiencing physical symptoms, headaches, muscle tension, digestive issues, sleep problems. You stop doing activities you used to enjoy outside of work. Your relationships with family and friends are strained. You're always talking about work stress, right? It's coming off as pain points. You're using numbing behaviors, so excessive social media scrolling, doom scrolling, binge watching Netflix shows, retail therapy. You catch yourself saying things like, I just need to push through this busy season over and over again. Or you have language and mindset patterns. So this is how it shows up. I became a therapist to help people, not run a business. I just need to work harder. I need to be more organized. I need to get my account together, right? Maybe I should just go back to working someone else. I don't have time for systems planning or strategic thinking. Other practice owners make this look so easy. I'm just not a business person. Now, here what's most important. So if you checked off items in 3 or more categories, then you're not experiencing any temporary stress. You're experiencing a systematic burnout, right? Caused by how your practice is designed, how your business and operations is designed. And this isn't about your personal capacity or your work ethics. It's actually about your operational design. So I want to go into the actual definition of what burnout really is, because I don't like using burnout because it's just so vague and amorphous. What is burnout? That I don't like using the word burnout or amorphous words, is that it's something I'm actively working on, and I think it makes things easy. Burnout is a pattern of avoidant, reactive, low energy behaviors sustained over time, driven by misaligned practice operations or overcommitment without proper business boundaries. We can even just say without boundaries in general. Like, those are probable cases, right? So let's break this down. When it comes to pattern, it's not a one-time event or a bad week. It's consistent behaviors repeated over months. There's avoidant. You're avoiding your tasks, the conversations, the decisions that you know you should be making. You're just avoiding making them. You're more reactive when you have your team coming to you, or you're responding to crises instead of preventing them. You're managing your practice from a place of urgency rather than intentionality. You have low energy. And actually, I'm not even showing you this. So these are categories, all right? So you have low energy. You might be hitting snooze and midday, skipping out your workouts that you're used to doing. And you sustained over time. So this has been a normal operating mode for you for months now and not days. So your misaligned practice operations, your daily activities don't match your core strengths, your values, and the reason you even became a provider in the first place, or even why you started this business. Your overcommitment without boundaries. It's so common. You said yes to too many tasks, too many things, and you didn't create systems to handle the increased workload when it comes to sustaining. The key insights here is that last part. So you're driven by misaligned practice operations. This isn't about your character, your work ethic, your clinical skills. This is about how your practice is structured to operate. Think about it this way. If a client came to you and said, I keep having the same negative experiences in relationships, you wouldn't tell them that they just need to try harder or have more willpower. You look at their pattern, you dive into their why, their boundaries, their communication styles, and relationship systems, right? You'd help them identify what they are doing that's creating these patterns that keep showing up consistently in their lives. And then you'd help them change those underlying behaviors and systems. Same principle is going to apply here. It's not different. You just have to frame it differently in your mind. So now you're probably thinking, okay, cool, but how can I do this? Let's get into some actual steps I suggest, and I've also done for myself, because I've been there too. It's not just practice owners and providers. It's a common amongst entrepreneurs and just those who are serving at a high level. It's easy to overwork yourself when you have such a drive, and then the burnout happens. So let's get into these practical steps. All right, so strategies and systems to manage your workload efficiently. Just like Avengers need a strategy to save the world, you're going to need effective techniques to help you tackle your daily tasks, your responsibilities, and without feeling overwhelmed. So how do you do this? One is time blocking. Well, before you even time block, you need to do an audit of your actual day-to-day. So for the next 5 to 7 days, you need to track how much time you spend seeing clients. From what time to this end time do you see clients? From your start time to end time, do you meet with your team and do supervision, help them hold your meetings? When do you look at the numbers? When do you have that self-care time? Once you know what that looks like for you real time, you took note of it, you're going to actually create your own time blocks for you that work best. It's going to be one-to-one. Everyone's going to be different. So I have time blocks. So you have your clinical time, business time, buffer time, self-care should be another one you add on there. And it could be on your calendar from 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm doing manager time. And then from 12 to 3, I'll do clinical time to where I'm going to see clients and manage my team. However that works for you is going to be one-to-one. All right. And by that, you just need to recognize and define when you're going to be wearing your clinician hat and when you're going to be wearing your CEO hat. All right. Create those dedicated time blocks to match and fit those roles and times you need. Now, there's a doctor who's a clinical psychologist who manages successful private practice in San Francisco. So Dr. Goodarzi, sorry if I butchered it, but her schedule is often overwhelming. She was juggling, and she decided to implement time blocking systems to help her with her workload. So from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., she had client sessions. From 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., she had admin work. From 2 to 3:30, researching and writing. And 3:30 to 4:30, she left open for team meetings and assisting her team. 5 to 6 was her personal development time, probably at home, reading, whatever she needed. So it's actually increased her productivity by 40%. And she was able to actually focus on each task without interruptions and without getting frustrated. She was able to reduce that stress. And she had dedicated time for each aspect of her practice in her life. And it just felt more controlled. She improved her work-life balance, which I think only happens in seasons, right? Stuff happens in seasons. But she's able to finish her work on time, spend that quality time with family. And this leads into the next important step once you're time blocking. Kind of go hand in hand. It's going to be prioritization, right? You need to prioritize and ensure that you can focus on what's most important to you. Now, think of Iron Man as prioritizing key upgrades to his suit to ensure he can maximize efficiency when he's battling. I'm a Marvel nerd, so you're going to see me throw these out. Now, Dr. Melnick adopted the Eisenhower matrix to prioritize tasks. So it goes into really 4 categories. So there's urgent and important. This is for client emergencies, immediate deadlines. There's important but not urgent, long-term projects, continuous professional development, personal development. And there's urgent but not important. So admin, emails, routine check-ins. And then there is not urgent and not important. So social media, maybe non-essential meetings, those pop-ups, because everyone's emergency is not your emergency. I just have to leave that out there. So I'd actually just copy this down and create your 4 boxes. If you like to use Excel sheets, create your 4 categories and put those into the different boxes that it may fit. This will help you prioritize if that's a personal problem that you're having, right? Now, this helps with efficient task management so you can focus on tasks that were both urgent and important. So Dr. Melnick did it. She was able to reduce her workload by 30%. Enhance client care. Now, if you're able to do this properly, you can prioritize the time spent. So you can spend more time on the client care, resulting on better outcomes and higher client satisfaction, right? You're not creating dependent clients. You're creating clients who can take skills, what you applied, and help them with, and go on to achieve those goals that they had. And there's strategic growth. You can prioritize, and this actually allowed her to allocate time to the business development side of things, right? She's able to lead for expansion in her practice. It's hard to do so when everything is piled up on you and you feel like you have no control of your life and you don't know where your time is gone. You don't know what you should be doing first. This is the first step. You got to crawl before we walk. You can take a look at it, understand what this looks like. You might need to do this for a long term before you can do it off the cuff, right? Once you have these categories down, it makes the time blocking part so much easier and manageable. So actions, get your calendar out right now and start doing this. It might take you a month, but you at least start it now so you can have that relief sooner rather than later. Or when that is all said and done, you can actually systematize your client flow. What do you mean by client flow? Well, you need to create a standardized process in every stage of the client's journey. So inquiries, intake, assessment, treatment planning, session management, progress monitoring, I don't know, discharge or referrals. When every client follows the same pathway, you're going to spend less mental energy managing each case, right? Because decisions are already made. There's a system in place, there's processes in place, and you're not reinventing the process for each person. It's how it works within your business. Now, here's what this looks like. So, an inquiry process, how potential clients can find you, how they contact you, how and when you respond, who responds, how you qualify them, all that. Your intake process, what paperwork to complete, when they have to complete it by, how you review it, how you prepare for the first session. Your assessment process, what tools will you be using? When do you use them? How do you score them? How do you communicate your results to them? And then treatment planning. So how do you set goals? How do you review progress? How do you adjust plans? Session management, how you prepare for sessions, how you document sessions, how you follow up between the sessions. They're all things that should have a system and process. So anyone that joins your team, any clients that come through and that you continue to work with in the future, they follow the same process. They might have categories, right? So depending on what issues to deal with. However, it should be the same and they should be treated equally with that intention. You want that intentionality behind helping them. Boom. So now you did all that and you have that on a blank, but the Eisenhower matrix, it makes this one so much easier, right? It's delegating and automating what drains you most. You need to identify what specifically drains you and require specific clinical expertise, because then you'll be able to either delegate them to new team members or you can automate it with technology. So you might need to do a energy audit. Ask yourself these questions. What tasks energize you? What makes you feel like you're using your strengths? Which tasks drains you the most, but are necessary for your business to run? Which of the tasks are draining you, but can be done by someone else with proper training? And which of the draining tasks could be automated or just eliminated entirely? Deleting a lot of things is often the best way because you find out you're doing a lot of things you don't need. Now, common tasks that practice owners should be delegating: insurance verification, authorization, appointment scheduling and rescheduling, payment processing and billing follow-up, basic client intake paperwork management, social media posts, basic marketing task, routine admin task, data entry. Now, the key is to start small. So if you do, I always recommend going with the assistant route. All right, you need someone who can handle multiple avenues when you're just starting out. So a general admin assistant that can possibly post on your social media, that can possibly handle the scheduling, right? Start where you're at, where your resources. You want to make sure you can use the most out of the resources that you do have. And we even started with someone who started off with just 20 hours a week part-time, and then we were able to move them up. Now, the most important one on here that if you didn't hear nothing else from this video, I hope you hear this one, is create boundaries for yourself that actually work. You should be setting specific, enforced boundaries around your time, your energy, and availability, and then create systems to maintain those boundaries without constant, willpower. It should be set in stone. Effective practice boundaries that I find are communication boundaries. So when are you available to client? When are you available to contact a client? Or when available to reach out to you? How can clients reach out to you? The response time expectations. When can your team reach out to you? When are you available to assist them with their needs? Schedule boundaries, your working hours. So that's going to be the buffer times you talked about, the time blocking. This is an excellent way to set up your boundaries. All right. Scope of boundaries, what services you provide, what type of clients you're going to work with, what issues you address. This is going to be in your ideal clients, right? And then financial boundaries, your fee structure, your payment policies, your insurance participation, your referral fees. And team boundaries are decisions you make versus what your team handles. So how can you communicate with your staff? You should answer those questions, especially as a entrepreneur and business owner that's trying to build something and scale your business. Now, one practical example of this is instead of trying to remember to check your emails at 6 p.m., you're going to set up a autoresponder that tells people when you'll respond back, and you remove the work email from your personal, right? So don't try to implement all 5 of these at once. Like, pick one system to start with, and that would you think will have the biggest impact on you and your specific burnout patterns. So, burnt out trying to cure your burnout. One that my mom personally uses is Mondays. She loves her Mondays. She schedules her massages because most people are like, I dread Mondays. Well, she made Mondays her self-care day. Everyone has their own way of doing things. Now, I want to talk about some objections I hear mostly to this framework. They'll say, I don't have time to work on systems because I'm too busy seeing clients. This is like saying you don't have time to get your car serviced because you're too busy driving. Working on systems isn't separate from running your practice. It allows your practice to actually run sustainably. Start with 2 hours per week. Get your systems developed. Those 2 hours will give you at least 4 to 6 hours in a month. And now we're compounding into a year. It's so much better. You might also be saying systems feel impersonal, and I want my practice to feel personal and client-centered. Well, systems don't make your clinical work less personal. They free up your mental and emotional energy, so you can be more present and creative when you're doing your clinical work. It helps clients feel better when you're more engaged, right? They feel like you care. You want to make sure they still feel like you can help them. You might say, I can't even afford to hire help right now. You can't afford not to hire help. If the lack of help is keeping you burned out and limiting your growth, you need to start small. 5 hours a week, maybe virtual assistant. Give them a name outside of virtual assistant, right? Give them something operational assistant, something. And something that costs less, but you can spend that on coffee. Like, let's just be realistic. Starbucks costs more than that, maybe even more, but it can free up at least 6 to 8 hours of your time and allow you to have longevity in this and not want to give up. Might be saying every client is different, so how can I systematize their treatment? I'm not suggesting you systematize your clinical decision making. I'm just suggesting you systematize everything around the clinical decisions that you make: scheduling, documentation, intake, progress, monitoring, treatment planning. This gives you more time and energy for the clinical creativity and can't be systematized. That can't be systematized. I tried to create systems before, but I never stick to them. Well, most practice owners try to create systems that require constant discipline to maintain. Effective systems work automatically. Once they're set up, if your systems require daily willpower to maintain, they're not a good system for you. It might work for someone else, but it's just not working for you. Now, burnout isn't solved with self-care apps or retreats or working harder. It's solved by building a practice that stops draining you and starts supporting you. So let's start supporting the work that you actually love. Step 1, pick 1 to 5 systems. Step 2, block out those 2 hours in your calendar. Step 3 is identify those tasks that you're currently doing that drains you of your energy that you can delegate out. Something I work with my clients one-on-one on to help them implement without them being overwhelmed. Right? We want to build sustainable businesses that last. We don't want to start a business and have to shut down because we got drained, burnt out, and overworked. You already been through that and been through the ringer when it came to working for agencies and other practice owners. So don't do it to yourself. Now, remember, you didn't become a therapist to burnout running a business. You became a therapist or a practice owner, a clinician, to help people. You can have both, but only if you build a practice that is designed to support you and your clinical work instead of competing with it. Now, if you know someone's struggling with this, make sure to share this. I hope you implement and not just listen and take this in. Let's go ahead and build practices that work for us and not against us. I'll see you in the next one.